Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. It's a DFS strategy video for the 2021 Open Championship, the 149th Open Championship. Gotta remind you, 149th, and we're playing at Royal St. George's. These strategy videos are meant to narrow down our player pool and try to find the best plays. So we'll be looking at anchor tee time pairings. If you've been with me the last 8 weeks, you know that's what we've been doing, and we found a lot of our optimal lineup golfers from these tee time pairings. And we'll also be looking at anchor buckets, trying to figure out which buckets of the bucket system are ones that we really want to target and select golfers from. And with that being said, I discussed the bucket system pretty in length in my preview video, so hopefully you had a chance to watch that video. If you haven't, I'll put a link top right hand corner. Go ahead, drill down on that. Obviously, learn as much as you possibly can from the bucket system because I won't be explaining as much in this video. I think it's going to pay dividends if you go and watch that one. But let's go ahead, get in the strategy video. I'll remind you guys there are timestamps in the description below. You can also find those timestamps on YouTube's progress bar. Just hover over it and you'll see timestamps that way. But I have a little treat for you guys. I have a guest with me, Mr. Guru Nick. I don't know if you guys watched during the Masters video, but we did one together there, and he's going to help me break this down. We're going to give you our best plays. What's going on, Nick?
Thanks for having me back. Sorry we missed the two in between, but save the best for last as it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't remember why we couldn't do it. I don't even know if there was an invitation sent.
I think we just kept doing our own thing in the summer and just time flew by, but here we are. And, after the 2-year break, with the opens, I think it's a good tourney where a lot of the information you're going to have on your sheet's going to pay dividends. And hopefully I can tag along for the ride and throw in a couple of slices of icing on the cake here and make us both some money and create some new fans for both of our golf followings at the same time.
Absolutely. You and I discussed how we want to break this down. And honestly, I think, let me double check here. I think it's probably best we start with our ranks. You and I kind of discussed this. I'm going to just pull it up right now.
Okay.
I'm going to move you out of the way. I'm actually going to get rid of your guest name. Let's move you to the middle. You can be right next to me. That's fine. That way we can see the players and our ranks that we have right here. And just to double check. Okay, I have no filters on. Perfect. I'm actually going to get rid of this as well. You and I, we went through this. We found a lot of our ranked golfers are very similar to each other. My ranking, I'm going to discuss what my ranking comprises of. That way you have a better idea of what yours, you and I actually didn't discuss this, but just to let you know and the viewers know, my ranking kind of comprises of my own formula of trying to get all the best stats that I'm showing right here on columns DJ all the way through DQ. I'm looking at official world golf ranking, course history, which is tournament history, bogey avoidance, birdie or better percentage. Then I'm looking at recent form when it comes to DraftKings average, like the DraftKings points they scored in the last 7 weeks, their average finishing position over the last 7 weeks, and then their average scoring position. And then if they don't have a scoring average, I just give a default number that I find is fair.
Makes sense.
That way it's not really separating, the top guys from those that don't have scoring average. And then same thing applies for season-long DraftKings average and season-long scoring average. That creates a score over here. It's just an addition of all of those fields together, which then creates my rank. Do you want to describe how you got to your rank?
Eerily similar, just we have a lot of the same factors in there. It's probably just gone about it a different way, but basically I try to fill out the entire field 1 to 56 1 to 156, and then I throw in a couple of alternates just in case somebody drops at the last minute here or there. So I think I've got 160, but I've got some form components. I've got some recent form, and I've got a little long-term form built in. I've got the event history, just because the courses rotate. I've got a couple different stats things that I thought were important, and birdie or better is definitely one of them. I've got a minor odds component, and then I threw in a small just percentage of corollary courses, which is kind of a blend of European and American, and just saw how it kind of shook out.
Perfect. I'm going to sort this by our rankings. Let's see what my top 20 golfers are. It's actually headed by Xander Schauffele. He's my number one guy. Then it goes Jon Rahm, Patrick Cantlay, Jordan Spieth, Harris English. I'm not going to go through all the rest of these guys. But what I like to do, I'm going to move you again. I guess there's no good place to put you. We'll put you right here. What I like to do is look at the price tags of some of these guys and just see if anything really like comes out, where we might want to just anchor our play or our lineups around some of these guys just based off their cheap price tags. And obviously the first one that jumps off the page to me is Harris English. $7,300. He's my 5th ranked guy when I use all of those stats. I think a little bit comes from recent form. But yeah, I kind of find it interesting that he's up here. But not to be outdone, Daniel Berger's right there at 7,400. And Jason Kokrak at 7,200. These are my 3 quote-unquote value plays that I see using the SweetSpot rank inside the top 20 for this field, this tournament. What do you think about that?
Value. That's great value for sure. I like the form play in Harris English, and Berger was 10,000 and change last week at the weaker field at the Deer, and he's capable of putting up some big points as far as DraftKings goes. So I like that play there. And Kokrak is a guy that's just been steady Eddie for the last year. You probably wouldn't have touched him 2 years ago, but I don't know if you want to call it resurgence or what have you, but he's been pretty solid. With a couple of wins under his belt, and the fact that he's 7,200 in this field, I think that's I love those 3, and the fact that you got him in your top 20. I think it's tremendous. I think it'll help build a pretty strong balanced lineup.
It's pretty crazy. Like, whenever I go through this, I rarely find 7K golfers, even for, say, the US Open or the PGA Championship with other soft pricing. Some $7,800, I'll take that back. Some $7,800 golfers, like a Louis Oosthuizen, has popped up before. So I find this extremely interesting with pricing. Rory McIlroy, I think we have 6 10K golfers, if I recall correctly. Let me double check. So we have 5, Xander being the last one there. Oops, I want to go the other way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rory is the lowest ranked 10K golfer that I have. And I think that's kind of deserved because he just hasn't been playing the greatest of golf as of late. My recent form does take into account European events as well. So I do look at European events, and I go back, let's see here, to the mixed tournament.
It's a good mark.
Or no, Made in Himmerland. That's what this one is, MIH. I forget what Made in MIH stands for. But yeah, it goes back to Made in Himmerland, and I think that's 7 weeks going back. I'm pretty sure.
I think that sounds right. Just kind of doing the math in my head real quick.
Yeah. So it does account for all of those. So anybody that's on the European Tour that played those events, they're going to get a bump up if they performed well in any of those events. I didn't put any kind of weighting towards it or anything like that. I just counted it as the same type of event as a PGA Tour event, which isn't technically true. Like, Made in Himmerland shouldn't be, similar to... Well, actually, I'll take that back. Made in Himmerland's probably pretty close to the John Deere Classic, So, anyways, I'm not... what's the word I'm looking for?
I didn't split mine out by kind of field strength either, and made the stronger PGAs, that much count that much more than the Euros. I did the same thing. I counted them all, equal as an event. So we have similar ranks there. I mean, the big difference for me is I think I've got my event history probably weighted a little bit more, and that's the big swing. While I've got Rory a little higher in my rankings than DJ, but I mean, it's splitting hairs, to be honest with you.
Well, let's take a look at your rankings, top to bottom. So you have your number 1 guy, Jordan Spieth. Your number 2 guy is Xander, so we're not too off from there. Your 3rd guy is Jon Rahm. Again, we're not too off from there. And Patrick Cantlay. So our top 4 is kind of mixed, where I would have Spieth as number 4. You have him as number 1. And then we basically have the same ranks for the next 3 golfers. It's just that you put Spieth ahead of everybody else. But kind of the same thing. Let's look at some of these value plays and kind of look at our 10K golfers and see where you have them ranked. I see right away Daniel Berger, 74. Your first 7K golfer is a little bit lower than my first 7K golfer, which is totally fine. Shane Lowry comes in 2nd. Matt Fitzpatrick, Kokrak, and then Stuart Sink. So you have a 6K golfer that pops up inside the top 20 of your rankings. Explain yourself.
He's played the Open a bunch of times. I mean, he won in 2009 and really, he's done okay if you look at his kind of success over the last 6 months, 12 months. But really, I think the big difference really is going to turn out just to be event history. I've got it up there. I took a look at some of the trends that have kind of developed that people have been putting out there, whether it's articles or on Twitter or whatnot, and tried to take note of all of them and figured out. I basically built my model based off a lot of the trends that have been successful over the last 8 to 12 years, but then still kind of took the model that I've normally built and tried to kind of meld the two together, and this is what came out. I think it might be a little high for Sink. But again, of course, history plays a part, and it's a tourney that were older golfers with some event / course experience actually do fairly well. I mean, you can't really do much better than that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that makes sense logically to me. Your lowest 10K golfer is Dustin Johnson. Rory would be your second to lowest, which. Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with this either. I mean, I'm not going to have any problems with your rankings no matter what. You and I already went through this, and we see a lot of similarities. Some things jump around a little bit, but do you have a reason why Dustin is your 13th ranked golfer as opposed to being inside the top 10, perhaps?
I think there was some recent form that I didn't quite like, but really I think at the end it comes down to the event history. Rory's been pretty consistent in the opens, and DJ's been kind of, he's had some good run, but he's had some events which haven't really been great. And then you look at his recent form. I mean, Rory's got the win at the Wells Fargo. I know that was still a couple months back, but DJ hasn't really done anything, spectacular. But, you look at the guys above, and really the lower salaried guys have just had more recent success in either recent events, or they actually have some built-in major tournament, Masters, US Open, PGA type success, or better Open history. But 13 is still a pretty good mark.
Yeah, I agree.
He's just not playing like the DJ that I think we got all spoiled with at the end of last summer.
Right. I absolutely agree. I am kind of curious to see how he's going to play, because I'm not sure, someone like him, he ended up getting his number 1 ranking back, which I think is very interesting. And this is a course that obviously we've heard many people talk about already. He finished really well in 2011. But yeah, we'll see. I do like Dustin. I don't know how much ownership I'm going to actually have of him. I will be playing him though. So
you could do a lot. I mean, but really, I think it starts and ends with Rahm and how you think he'll do. I mean, We've got him near the top, and right. You could make 11-3 work, but there's some good value down the board. So it really just depends on where you end up down below, I think, as to really where you end up or where you start up top. Sometimes it's easier to start down and work your way up. Right.
I agree. Well, with these rankings, I like to look at the game numbers. Let me put you right here. I'll end up moving you, I think, again. But I'm going to sort by the game. And most of my audience knows this, but anyone that's coming over here that's new, what I like to do is sort by game and basically look at the collective ranking score. So if I were to count or, sum up the 3 rankings that make up this group, if it's under 100, I'm going to mark it with a dark green color like we see right here. So my very first group would be that we would probably be talking about here is Paul Casey, Ian Poulter, and Abraham Ancer. So yeah, I went through, I color-coded all of this. I looked at my rankings, I looked at your rankings, and what I ended up finding out is basically any of your dark green rankings I also have as dark green. So we're going to use your rankings to look at our anchor tee time pairings. And
wow.
I do this in all of my strategy videos is use these rankings to talk about the anchor tee time pairings. And with those tee time pairings, I've showed you this. And over the last 8 weeks, we usually find 2 of our optimal lineup golfers or golfers in our optimal lineup within these tee time pairings. Now, the funny thing about this week is there are a lot of groups paired together. Here, let me I always like to give visual evidence that these guys are paired up together. You can see the very first group has the game numbers over here, and it goes down. Nick, we end up having 9 total tee time pairings, which is pretty on par for a major championship. The US Open, I think, had 8. And the PGA Championship, I believe, also had 8. So or 7. I can't remember. It was one of the 2. So it's very close on par with that. Now, with these groups, I don't know. I don't know exactly how to tackle this. I think we can talk about each of these groups and maybe give a for and against, discussion about these golfers. So the very first group, I kind of mentioned this to you. You would reach out to me. I asked you, or I shouldn't say you reached out. I asked you, who is your favorite golfer this week? And your very first answer was, I'm growing a lot on Ian Poulter. So as we were looking at this, as we were reviewing this, looking at all of these groups, most of these groups have a 10K golfer in it or a 9K golfer in it. Basically, your favorites, that kind of thing. There's not a 9 or a 10K golfer in this one. And I said to you when we reviewed some of the other tournaments that this is a group that's probably not going to have an optimal lineup golfer in it after you told me you liked Ian Poulter. So I don't mean anything bad by that. I think the golfers are good. Paul Casey, Ian Poulter, Abraham Ancer. I have nothing against them. Do you think that they can ride off each other or, off of their success?
Well, I mean, I think Casey and Poulter could, but I think the stars have to align because, Casey was somebody I chased in the Masters and that didn't really quite go according to plan. But I do like the fact that, Poulter finished really strong last week. And I know that, last week has been a staple of the SweetSpot model for, a long time. And so, I think that's a good thing that he, did pretty well last week. But, kind of playing off the trends. I mean, he's played a bunch of opens. He's an older guy. He's got the short game that I think that'll come into play, this week. He's had some success on the Euro Tour. He's a links golfer. I mean, yeah, I think the better question is, I think Poulter will show up. The question is, can Casey find a putter and keep up with him? I really hope they both kind of feed off each other. And I mean, I don't expect it to be like a shootout or anything like that, but if they can keep each other honest and out of trouble and, grind it out to Sunday, I'm hoping they can position themselves well. I think the wild card in the whole mix is probably, Abe Ancer. Everybody's been waiting for him to just have that, breakthrough win, and he's been pretty steady. But can your breakthrough win be at a British Open or Open, depending on which side of the coin you're on, I suppose? Can it be here at a tough course? I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I almost forgot to mention this. It's been discussed across the industry at length. are you going to create any of your lineups based off of wave splits?
I looked at the weather, and as of now, at 11:53 p.m. on a East Coast, Wednesday or Tuesday night, Tuesday night now, it looks like there's a little bit of an edge to the PM on both days. So it's really kind of hard, I think, to have I don't think there's a serious lean yet. I'm not sure that one morning is going to be better than the other. So I might play, a little, I might move the needle a little bit on both, but I generally like the later golfers on the opening day. So, I mean, if I had a preference, it's probably going to be like a PM AM split, but I don't think I'll go heavy one way over the other. I think I'm just going to play my guys and let luck and lucky bounces in the fairway and whatever wind gusts, happen, do their course. And hopefully we're on the right side of things come Sunday.
Yeah. Personally, I don't think I would. Like, I don't really so much care for tee time splits. I always, I analyze these things afterwards, and we usually find an equal mix. We're creating DFS lineups. We're not looking at outright winners. We're not talking about one and done. If we're doing that, I think then you can deploy that strategy. But the top 10 is going to have a pretty darn close of an even mix between morning and afternoon waves. But I bring that up because if you take a look, I don't know how I can do this without removing all of the highlights that I have, but Will Zalatoris, 5:20 a.m. The next tee time after that is 8:04 with Patrick Cantlay. That's a huge jump when you take into consideration all of the other tee times, above it, and then when we look below it. So it looks like they're trying to put all the stars, together, kind of close together. And separate them between the morning and afternoon. So if you did want to do a wave split, you might find some gold here where, we do have 9 groups highlighted, but in the afternoon, we only have 4, the quote unquote afternoon, starting with Cantlay and going down to Cameron Smith. So if you did want to do that, there might be, like I said, there might be a benefit for doing it here. And I mean, the morning, we have 5 groups that we can select from, including the one we just talked about. So I don't know if it's something that interests you.
Oh, looking at it, yeah. I mean, I hadn't really stared at it until, you pointed it out, but that is pretty interesting that it really turned out to be a 5-4 split like that as a pool. So there's definitely ways you could go.
And if we really wanted to truly look at the PM, tee time being kind of a detriment, I think there's only 2 groups, sorry, that have a 10 o'clock tee time, 10 a.m. for East Coast. I believe this is the East Coast time. Maybe it's my time. I can't remember. But Dustin Johnson, Justin Rose, Will Zalatoris is one of those groups. They have a 5:20 tee time on Thursday and then a 10:20 on Friday. And then likewise, I guess the 2 groups down here that are kind of your marquee groups, JT, Scott, Fleetwood, Reed, McIlroy, Smith. So, just based off of tee times, I guess I don't know. I haven't looked at the weather since yesterday, so I don't know.
Things change on a dime. It's
right.
Today's news could be, today's forecast could be different tomorrow. So we'll see.
But I think maybe the edge you could have is selecting, if we really wanted to find like the opposite ends of the spectrum, this DJ Zalatoris Rose group would be the complete opposite of like a JT Adam Scott Fleetwood or Reed McIlroy Smith. If you flip them, you could really get your advantage by selecting a golfer or maybe 2 golfers from one of these kind of tee times. Now, I wouldn't suggest that you select 2 golfers from a game. I wouldn't put DJ and Rose together because, I mean, if you recall when we went through that, you didn't see many top 10s or top 20s together in a group. You just saw one. Not saying it doesn't ever happen because it did a couple times, but my suggestion is not to do that. But you could probably gain an edge if you either selected one golfer from this group to anchor your lineups around, or one golfer from here, and then, or from either of these groups here, and then not select anybody from this group, and vice versa. If you're following what I'm trying to say. Sometimes I get ahead of myself, but
yeah, no. I think that's a pretty good angle.
Yeah. Wonderful. I'm sorry for skipping across, all these other tee times. I really wanted to go top to bottom. So let's go to the next group that I had on the list to talk about. Koepka, Kokrak, Higgo. I don't know much about Garrick Higgo other than him winning the Palmetto. Koepka and Kokrak, though, I absolutely like those golfers together. For whatever reason, they remind me of each other, kind of. Kokrak probably a little bit more humble than Brooks, but they're to use some of the phrases that some of the younger people say, they're two thick boys. And they hit the ball far. They have that swag walk, you're not gonna mess with me type of vibe to them. And they seem, if you're on their good side, like they're cool people to be around. So I kind of like Kokrak and Koepka. What can you sell me on Higgo?
Euro side, he won 2 events pretty quick. Young guy, South African, can hit it a ton, but the thing that probably makes him appealing is he can putt really well. Okay. So it really just depends if you think a young guy can come in here and the 2 events he won though were birdie fest, for lack of a better way to describe it. So, can he go from, needing to hit 20 under to, grinding out I don't know, 6-7 under par, turning it and avoid the mistakes. I think he can be, pretty competitive, but I tend to probably underestimate some of the younger guys because I think in my mind, I want to see you do it a couple of times. But, based on where I've got him ranked and, where you've got him ranked, I mean, we've got him kind of, sort of toeing the cut line. And I think that's probably a fair place for him. I mean, does he have some upside? Sure. But, in his first Open, I just don't see it being enough to really warrant playing.
Okay. Fair enough. I think it's, well, do you have anything to say about Koepka or Kokrak?
I mean, it's kind of hard to ignore Brooks's, major tourney form. I mean, to use the whole Ricky Bobby analogy, if you're not first, you're last. So, I mean, I feel like he's going to show up here and, bank a top 10, or he's going to, end up in some gnarly rough somewhere and triple bogey a hole on Thursday or Friday and get the first flight out of town. Sure. If you play him, I hope it's the top 10. If you're not playing him, well, then I hope you make the right decision and he triple bogeys and, you can wag your finger in somebody's face that played him. But I think he should be on your radar, whether you play him or not. It's entirely up to you. And Kokrak is a gambler, I mean, the way he's been playing lately and the places you could go with the DraftKings salary. I mean, I think he's got to be on your radar. And the fact that we both had him in the top 20, I think that just, validates, keeping him in your player pool for sure.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the next group. We have Spieth, Brandon Grace, and Bryson DeChambeau, which, boy, I couldn't think of a more eclectic group of golfers to put together. Like, something tells me like Brandon Grace is kind of a weird dude. Like, just in general, he's quiet. He's kind of to himself. I could be completely wrong on that, but then you have Spieth and DeChambeau, which they both probably overanalyze everything. So I don't know. And they're both, I think they're both Dallas boys, aren't they?
Yeah, or live close by, yeah.
Texas. I guess I don't have their city name, but yeah, they both live in Texas now. They're both $9,000. They're really close to 10K. But, Spieth, you're number one golfer. DeChambeau, we are, pretty lukewarm on, being the 6th ranked salary guy. I have him ranked 16th. You have him ranked 41st. So I don't know. How do you feel about this group together? I like Jordan Spieth. I think he can just outplay whatever crap is going on around him with DeChambeau. But I do kind of have some concerns because they are both mental midgets. And I don't think, if they get on their bad side, I think they can really bother each other pretty easily.
I completely agree. I mean, if Bryson's tanking and Spieth's, cooking, I could see him bringing him down. I don't expect much I just really don't expect Bryson to do, all that much, honestly. I mean, you take the eye test stuff, the new caddy, and then, you look at, kind of recent form, and then you look at, event history and all that kind of stuff. I mean, could he do wonders? Absolutely. But I think there's way more negatives than positives. So I do worry about the distraction factor. I mean, even with, Grace to a certain extent too. I mean, if he just happens to get caught up in any of their, mental whatever's going on, it could bring, him down. But between the two, I strongly prefer, Spieth for sure.
Yeah. I think that sums it up pretty decently. I really don't. I'm going to play Spieth, and I'll play some DeChambeau. As some people talk about DeChambeau, this being bad for him because he can't calculate wind and stuff like that. It's like, come on. For those that think he can't do that, or it's going to be complicated for him, no, this is what he does. He measures the barometer meter right next to him before he hits a shot. I mean, we've heard it on the golf course. He doesn't have Tim with him anymore, so I don't know if this new guy is going to be able to do that kind of stuff, but I kind of sneaky think DeChambeau is going to play well here. I just have a feeling everyone's kind of off of him. There's this caddy drama with him. I do think the Open Championship is a test for him that he can compute and he can put all that stuff together and play well. It all comes down to the putter, right? It comes down to the putter for everyone. I don't know. These are going to be super slow greens. Maybe this helps DeChambeau out. I don't know. We'll see.
I think I think the smart ones were on him at the Open, but I think a lot of people underestimated him there too.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying that the, Winged Foot was the same thing or turned out to be the same thing as here, but, you underestimate him, you've got, a good price, you've got good odds, and not as many people probably are on him as there should be. So it's the type of tourney that you it's the type of play that if you're not on him, you're going to kick yourself for later, because he could easily sneak up there and just, make us all look bad if you're not on him. But,
right.
Here's hoping that whichever side you choose is the right one.
Right. I agree. All right, let's move on to the next group. Rahm, Oosthuizen, Shane Lowry, the defending champion for over 2 years now. Rahm, just kind of like you said earlier, it depends on what you're going to do with Rahm and how the cookie's going to crumble from there. To me, I know the model doesn't show Rahm as the number one golfer. I kind of get the sense that he's really close to kind of turning that switch and being a super dominant golfer. I'm not going to compare him to Tiger Woods or anything like that. This reminds me of DJ before his accident, at the Masters. He'd won 3 times prior to. Rahm should have won the Memorial, obviously won the US Open, and then couldn't make any putts at the Scottish Open and still finished top 10. So to me, I feel really strong about Rahm. I've kind of fell in this thing of not owning anybody more than 30%. I won't do it, but I want to own 50 shares of Rahm, 50% of my lineups of Rahm. As for the other two guys, Oosthuizen and Lowry, I think I'm not going to play Louis. $9,300. No, thank you. I know he's been playing really well, and he's ranked pretty decent for both of us. I shouldn't say I'm not going to play him. I'll play him, but his ownership's going to be set to my minimum levels for a golfer of his caliber, which might be 6% or 7%. I'm not going to go up there with everyone else. And I have no feeling on Shane Lowry. How do you feel about these 3 golfers?
Of the 10 highest salaried golfers or 10 lowest odds or whatever you choose to use, he's probably the safest play. So, I mean, the fact that he's the highest priced and, best odds, makes sense. I mean, he's probably the guy to most likely, bank a top 10 and probably a top 5. I mean, what you said about, touching on DJ, touching on Tiger, I mean, I think he's right there. And he just doesn't strike me as a birdie fest kind of guy. I mean, this type of tourney sets more up for him. I harken back to the, BMW last year and the crazy Memorial, grinding stuff out and just those, horrible conditions, low score, high scores, all that kind of stuff. And I think this shapes up just like that for him. And with him having 2 links wins in Ireland, and I think he's likely to get it done. So, I mean, I think you have to consider him. Shane Lowry, I'm not a big fan of playing defending champs. That's not to say defending champs can't show up and do well, but if you dive into his, event history, other than the wind, I think he had missed the 4 prior cuts at the Opens before. And, some of he's got enough to make you consider him, but if you really dig up close, there's enough. I think there's more negatives than positives, but if you want to play him, I mean, I've still got him ranked top 15 in my side of things. But again, that's a lot baked into event history and things like that. And I get you on Oosthuizen, but the way I built things, it's really, you look at recent form, and he's got recent form in the majors too. And, his open form's not, terrible, but it's one of those, I think he gets another top 10, or I think he misses the cut. It just depends on which way you want to go. So I at the moment, I'm kind of undecided because I feel like the prices above him, I think, are slightly stronger plays, and I'm not really sure where I'd squeeze him in if I did use him. So I'm probably going to end up in the same boat as you. If I do, it'll be, under owned, and at whatever, percentage, I need to use them in the truckload of lineups I'll end up playing. But I don't think he's a bad play. I just think there's probably better plays.
Sure. Okay. Let's move on. I just thought of this. So when we're done with the segment, what I want us to do is pick 3 golfers. So if you have any ideas of what you want to do, we're going to put those 3 golfers in a lineup, and then we're going to try to fill it out when we do our anchor buckets.
Done.
Okay. Scrolling down to the next group, Dustin Johnson, Justin Rose, Will Zalatoris. We kind of brushed up on Dustin Johnson a little bit earlier. We did talk about this group and the, strategies of trying to do the AM, PM type of splits, that kind of stuff. I'm pretty lukewarm on this entire group. I was very bullish on Zalatoris earlier. Like I liked him at the PGA. I liked him at the US Open. Disappointed me in both of those. That's not going to affect I'm not going to have any of that bias here with Will Zalatoris. I just don't care. Like I don't want to be overweight on him. I don't want to be underweight on him. I don't necessarily care that how much one way or the other I have of him. I do know I want some, as I do my model, it's going to be very my ownership model. It's going to be very balanced with Will Zalatoris. So I don't know what that looks like. Could be 8%, could be 12%, but I don't care for Will Zalatoris. Justin Rose, on the other hand, I believe he made my blacklist at one point in time. I don't know if he's still on it. But when I see his name, feelings of anger kind of, bubble up a little bit. Like, wait a minute, am I mad at this guy? I can't remember. But the fact that I have those feelings, is he still blacklisted? Make me not want to play him that much. And then DJ, I have no issues playing DJ. He's close. He's close. He never really lets us in on his game or anything like that. And I don't know if that's strategy or if that's just plain stupidity. It's one of those things that I feel like if you don't play some of him, you're missing out. The fear of missing out is strong with DJ, and I don't want to miss out.
I mean, he's the number 1 golfer in the world. I mean, I don't think he's likely to first or last like maybe, Brooks would be. I mean, I think DJ's pretty likely to show up, and I think he's got a pretty good all-around game, but it's really more salary usage and guys you want to use in your player pool. I think you summed up the game, the grouping there, pretty well. I mean, I'm kind of take it or leave it on Zalatoris. I mean, I'm probably lean more towards, minimal usage or not using much, just because I'm not really sure how he'll handle the course. I mean, I know he's done, had some good success in the other majors and whatnot, but, coming over to, Britain's a whole different animal in itself. Rose, I think it really all depends on which side of the Masters coin you fell on. If you fell on the 63 side and it helped you out, then great. But I think most of us probably didn't, and probably have that, lasting image of him screwing things up for a lot of us over the weekend. But I've got him a little higher, but again, that's just baked in, event history. And then, we touched on DJ, but it's one that, yeah, it's nice that we match up, but it's probably one of my least favorite of the 9. It might be my least favorite of the 9. So we'll see.
Okay. The next group is a group that I wouldn't have talked about if it wasn't for your rankings, but your rankings have them collectively under 100. So we are talking about them. Patrick Cantlay, Matt Fitzpatrick, and Ryan Fox. Primarily why this group is highlighted is because your rankings on Fitzpatrick and Fox are lower than mine. We have Patrick Cantlay pretty much the same. And with that being said, I do like Cantlay quite a bit. Personally, I like Fitzpatrick as well. $7,900 is going to do, it's going to give us a lot of flexibility in creating lineups, with him in it. Other than knowing Ryan Fox 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, how many years ago when he was kind of like the darling for everybody, I don't know much about Ryan Fox's game now. And actually, I will say this. I did watch a little bit of the 2019 Open Championship where Fox, I believe, shot, it was the first sub 30 9-hole round or something like that. I don't remember what day that was, if it was a Thursday or a Friday. And I didn't even see him on the top of the leaderboard when he had that round. So I have no idea where that came from, how it came about. But obviously he can score in the Open. So tell me a little bit, Ryan, about Ryan Fox. Tell me how you feel about Cantlay and Fitzpatrick.
So Fox, he went 39 on the front, and then he went 29 on the back.
Okay.
So yeah, and I think he's now got the lowest back 9 in Open history. Random, but he still finished, I think, -2, 15th, 20th, somewhere in that range. He's played some other links courses, which I kind of like, but he's got he's not really the best putter, but his tee to green game is pretty sharp. But I think the thing that's holding him back compared to a lot of the other Euro guys, he's short on events played this year. I think he's got maybe 9 played on the season, but his recent form seems to be trending right, depending on how you count it. I think he's got a couple of 3 or 4 top 15s in his last 4 or 5 starts or something. I mean, it's really more of looking at the I think he's got higher upside. The 6,600 price, I think he's got maybe, I don't know, depending on how you look at it, maybe like $8,000 upside. I've still got him kind of right on the cut line, but the idea that, somebody at that price, has some juice to, actually score some higher points. I know he'd love to probably, improve on the finish from 2 years ago. And I think he's quite capable. I don't know that he will. But the fact that he's, 66 allows me to go get somebody, I could add him to a Xander, Spieth, Rahm, what have you, combination and run with that. Fitzpatrick looked really good last week at the Scottish, to lose in a playoff. I think that's a good sign. Again, talking about, last week form. And what was kind of surprising to me is the fact that he got it to 18 under. I don't picture Fitzpatrick as a guy to really thrive on courses, where you need to score a bunch to do well. If you call it kind of links like last week, this being more of a links course this week, I think it's a good prep for this, and the fact that he won't have to go to to get it to 18 again. Hopefully he can get a couple over the 4 rounds on the par 5s and just stay out of trouble. And I like the fact that he's a pretty elite putter in the field, so I think he's likely to handle the greens pretty well. And as I think he's not one of the longer guys. So I think he, club down when necessary and keep the ball, in the appropriate places, and hopefully be a better judge of wind, being a Euro or international golfer versus, some of the Americans that come over. So, and the 7,900, makes a lot of sense to me. And again, you kind of alluded to it. I think it'll help you build in all kinds of directions. I was kind of surprised, to be honest with you, that, Cantlay ended up in my top 5, but, looking at, it's going to be kind of based on some of the stats, depending on how long you look at it. But really, I think a lot of it's just going to be based on, I don't know if he broke up with his girlfriend or something. He had that run a couple months back when, he just looked awful for a couple of tournaments, but then whatever clicked, he seems to be running pretty good again the last, 6-8 weeks or 6 tournaments or what have you. And I'm banking on the heater continuing. Of course, you have to take into consideration too, some of that recent form is going to be because, I hate to say backed in, but, backed into that, win at the Memorial, thanks to Rahm's, COVID nightmare. So, I mean, he might be slightly inflated, but again, I think the 8,900 is a good price. And I think you could do, worse in that range. So yeah, I tend to like all three.
Okay. Good to know. Let's move on to our next one. Again, another group I wouldn't have talked about because collectively they didn't score under 100 on my ranking scale, but they did for you. And large part is because of both Macintyre's rank for you and Ricky Fowler's. Now, Xander, to me, he's my number one golfer. I like Xander this week. He obviously had a good showing at the Scottish Open. Despite, I think, his first 2 rounds playing with that arm lock putter and losing strokes putting. Now, you and I already talked about these strokes gain stats and, kind of the misinterpretation of them. He did gain strokes without the arm lock putter. I don't know if that means his approach game was that bad, but I also heard, or I do know this too, his strokes gained approach on average over the last, 7 weeks is in the positive. So he's obviously hitting the ball well. Hopefully he's putting well. The arm lock didn't screw him up or whatever. But I feel like this is a golf course he's gonna play well. I do kind of have a soft heart for Ricky Fowler. So I do want to play Ricky, and I think this is a tournament that he can play well at. He's been struggling recently. I think link style golf, as well as just open golf, can kind of cure, or I should say mitigate, some of the issues that he's been seeing stateside. So kind of like that about Ricky Fowler. And with Macintyre, I'm going to give it to you to be the resident Euro guy here, but I recognize the name. I recognize him from the match play. I do know who Robert McIntyre is. I can never get to McIntyre. Like, he's not a golfer that I care to ever own in any of my DFS lineups, even despite some of the success he's had in some of these bigger tournaments. Can you sell me on McIntyre? And why is Ricky better ranked in your model than mine?
I double checked just to make sure. I was a little stunned at the top 50 for him, but he's played well over here, and I think you summed it up pretty well. I think the course could really hide some things that are causing him some trouble in the States. I won't say that he's at a place where his short game is elite, but I think he could, if he happens to find some trouble, I think he's one of the few that could get out pretty well and do okay. McIntyre is another one of those, younger guys that I think people keep waiting for that breakthrough win. I really favored him going into the Scottish Open a couple weeks ago, but he had to withdraw for the COVID close contact. So, that still strikes again, even overseas. But he's kind of that guy with a bit of the hits it a ton, drives pretty well, short game's not perfect, but he putts okay. He's kind of that second tier guy that you keep waiting to find that next gear to take it to the elite level. And it seems like there's plenty of other younger guys that have been doing it, and all it takes is one good round, one good hit to get it going. And being from Scotland, having some pretty good experience in his history with the link stuff. At 73, I mean, if you're asking him to, win the tourney, I mean, that might be a big ask. But, if you're asking him to, make a top 10 and perhaps, sneakily be a sneaky play to creep into an optimal or something, I think it could happen. I still think, being the same price as Ricky, I still might prefer Ricky, but that could just be the American, bias in me. But I think they're both worth taking a look at depending on your salary point, what your salary needs are. because there's some guys in the sixes that are fine, but I don't personally plan to jump down too far into the sixes if I don't have to. But as far as the game goes, it's Xander and Xander all the way. I mean, he checks just about every box that I'm looking for, and had really Spieth not had Xander would probably be number one, but the biggest difference is Spieth's success in the Open itself. Otherwise, I mean, they're pretty mirrored up, other than Spieth's recent win and I don't want to say dominant, but on the verge of dominant recent form. Those are the two biggest difference, but they're close enough where I'm perfectly happy with 1 and 1A or in whichever order.
Okay. And I mean, there is a world where you can pair them up together, and I mean, both their salaries are forgiving enough to do so.
That's the beautiful part, the fact that they're 1-2 for me, and they're 19,000 and some change, and that still leaves you a good mid 7+ for your remaining 4 guys. I think it's a great place to start.
I agree. I just thought of something when it comes to this group, and kind of this group alone, because I didn't really see this scenario anywhere else. But if you were cascading lineups and you fell on Ricky Fowler as part of your main lineup and you were cascading, when it came to Ricky, when you pivot from him, Robert Macintyre seems like the most logical, just by looking at these tee time pairings, to then pivot to. So it would be interesting if Xander breaks all of our hearts and either Robert Macintyre or Fowler finish inside the top 5 and become one of the optimal lineup plays. That'd be kind of the kiss of death for us here.
Definitely, but crazier things have happened. So now that you pointed out, I suppose I might have to play one, and maybe I'll make it a lower dollar valued entry, but I might have to do it.
I mean, for me, it's hard not to start lineups with Xander. I'm working on something where I don't want my maximum ownership exposure to be higher than a certain number. I haven't figured out what that number is yet, but it is something. It's somewhere between 22% and 27%. I don't know what it is yet. I don't think it really matters all that much. But when you are creating 100 lineups like I am, it might. Just having a percentage or two might get me from a Xander to, I don't know, $9,900 golfer. We were just talking about Bryson, I think. And that one Bryson lineup could be the perfect lineup minus Bryson. If I don't choose Xander at 27% as opposed to like 24%. But either way, there is a number in my mind that I think your highest percentage would be. But Xander's going to be at the top of it. On the flip side of all of this, my anti-Xander lineups, I'm going to play a fair share of McIntyre and or Fowler. It won't be and Fowler. It'll be or Fowler. Like I said, I'm not pairing more than one guy from each of these groups together. So I also don't want to lose out if McIntyre is in that optimal or even Fowler. So I just figured I'd mention that, throw it out there, see how you felt about it. But yeah, let's move on to the next group. We are running at an hour long already, Nick.
Just call me Chatty Cathy. What can I say? But it's open week,
Yeah, absolutely. No, I have no problem with it. I am also a Chatty Cathy. Scrolling to the next group, Justin Thomas, Adam Scott, Fleetwood. I think the first thing that steps out to me is, well, he's ranked 9 for both of us. 9 is a lucky number to me. It is also a lucky number in Nordic culture, which I am. A lot of things just for the fact of seeing this. JT, $9,600. I don't know, man. I like JT quite a bit. I think his game is actually rounding into form. I do like the fact he played Scottish Open. Since the Players Championship, he's been putting this ball flight in. It's a low hook. He's trying to control it. I just think that's how he hits his hooks. If you try to hit a hook, you're going to close the club face. You're going to hit it lower on average. If he has that controlled, I like it. He's also one of the guys that really tries to shape his shots as best as possible. He wants the most control of his golf ball that I think of anybody on tour minus Bubba Watson, essentially. Adam Scott, he works the ball both directions. I think he is another great play. And Fleetwood being a guy who, for a while was super good. I don't know what the heck happened to Tommy Fleetwood. You see that he has that 5 number next to him. He's lit up as light red. That 5 indicates that he has negative off the tee stats and negative putting season long. He has had these stats since the beginning of the season. Like, I don't know what happened, why his strokes gained off the tee is terrible, or why his strokes gained off, putting, why that hasn't normalized and come back to even. Like, I don't know if he was a good putter to begin with. I never really think of him as one. But, the grinded out Fleetwood somehow fell, and I don't know what to make of it. He's 36th in your model. He's 42nd in my model. At $8,000, that's got to be like the 16th ranked golfer when it comes to salary. So you and I don't really care much for Fleetwood, but is that just kind of a miscalculation on our side, or how do you feel about that?
He's kind of, because I just don't think he's had the breakthrough performance that people remember. And, we were kind of chit-chatting earlier, he's had kind of the one good round, but I think it's been just good and consistent across the board. He hasn't had those couple of just really spectacular shots or rounds that people remember. He'll shoot a 65 and follow it up with the 74 and then close the tourney out with 70 and 71 and bank a top 20. I mean, you'll cash a check, which is great, and get some FedEx points or Dubai points or whatever you need, depending on, and tours and stuff like that. But I think if you follow some of the trends, I mean, he's played a few more opens. He's just turned 30, I think, in January. He's had some success in the Euro Tour last couple of years. I mean, he's had some okay, if you take the Euro form and PGA form kind of the same, he's done okay, so far in the calendar season. The short game's been kind of okay. Not spectacular. I mean, around the green stuff, I mean, I wish he'd been putting a little bit better, but the ball striking, the approach game is really the thing I remember him going toe to toe for the last, couple of years. And I think that's the thing that I haven't seen that, dominant, have a shot, 160 from the fairway and clip it, 5 yards, or 5 feet to the flag. He's still leaving stuff, 15, 20, 25 feet out. And I think it's more just passing the eye test and getting spoiled. Could he flip a switch and turn it on? I mean, he fits enough of the, boxes where, yeah, he's probably on my radar, but I tend to like, old, reliable and consistent. I think I favor Adam Scott a little bit more just because, he's here to win. He's here to, I think he picks his spots. He's kind of the, I don't know, we'll say Webb Simpson type, only goes to the events he wants to go, plays the majors. He generally shows up and scores well at the, because he cherry picks the schedule anymore. And if he's off just because he had a bad set. But, if you look at enough of his, rounds and stuff together, I mean, it's kind of not elite. It's just very good. But, if anybody could flip a switch and get hot and pay dividends at a good, DraftKings price, I mean, those high 7, low 8 numbers, those are even majors and other tourneys have actually proven to be pretty helpful. It's just a matter of, finding the right one. And the fact that this was a, anchor bucket for both of us and playing in a group, I think with JT is definitely going to help. He looked really good last week. I think the, playing on the links courses definitely suit him, and he would be, somebody that looked good, kind of fell back with a variety of things, and if I'd rather catch him a week early than a week late, and if this is the start of the ascension back to major land, then let's jump on it. So I think it's a good group. I expect all three to do well.
Okay. I was scrolling through this, looking at his recent form, strokes gained stats. Well, Tommy Fleetwood, that is. Just to see where he was. Obviously, I agree with you with the strokes gained approach. Season long, he's basically at break even, 0. And then recently, the last 7 weeks, 0.259. And this is a total number. This is a total, like, running. Like, this isn't an average. So some of the best ball strikers are going to have, like extreme numbers, but it doesn't look like anyone does. Actually, no. Maybe I did change it to average. I can't remember. This is bad, but either way, average or even total, he's basically right there. And when you and I were talking about strokes gained before we jumped on here, his off the tee, he's minus 0.31. He could have sniped one into the woods. Maybe he had one penalty shot added onto that, and that's what's creating this negative off the tee. If we look at his season long, he's minus 2 or minus 0.2. Where did we go? Why did it go over there? Minus 0.2, which isn't terrible. Again, perhaps that's, a tournament where he had a couple penalty shots off the tee, which those, you have to count those, but who knows? I don't know. His putting, very close to being, positive. It's also very break even, but it is technically negative. So, but the around the green stats look good. Approach, not terrible. So, yeah, I guess when we look at something like this, again, you and I were talking about this before jumping on. Tommy Fleetwood looks a little worse than what he probably should, seeing that he has negative off the tee, negative putting, that's just barely, and I don't know. If there's enough trouble here off the tee where his driver might get him in trouble, then I would avoid it. But I think this is a course where I think Tommy Fleetwood could play decent at. He doesn't have to hit driver off every hole. I heard the fairways are large. I heard two things. I heard the fairways are wide, and I heard the fairways are narrow. When I looked at the course breakdown, the fairways were pretty large. So I don't know which side of the story is true. If that's the case, then fire up some Fleetwood. I think that's good. And everything that you said with Scott and Thomas, yeah, I absolutely agree. I think this is a group. I think this is a group I want to target. I don't know how much exposure I want of all 100 lineups I create. I don't know if I want to go 20-20-20, but if that's the case, they're going to make up 60% of my lineups then. So I'm going to toy around with it. I don't think I'm going to go 20-20-20, but I think JT is going to be in the 20% for me. Adam Scott will probably be somewhere north of 15, and Fleetwood for me will probably be north of 12%. Like I really like this group.
Me too. I think those are good numbers.
Okay. And our last group is Patrick Reed, Rory McIlroy, and Cameron Smith. McIlroy, it's hard to trust him at 10-9. He's always, obviously he's priced that way because of his talent, but his recent form and just his, let's say he doesn't win at the Wells Fargo Championship. If we're looking at that without that win, Rory should be in the 9K range. Obviously he got the win, so you can't just say if he didn't, but at the same token, I don't know who's had more disappointing finishes over the last 3 months than Rory McIlroy. And maybe even goes back further than that. I remember the API being one of those disappointing tournaments that he finished at. He's always super close. He always feels good about his swing, but there's just something that's lacking. Obviously he's working with Pete Cowan, or he has been for a while, trying to get back to his roots or whatever with his golf swing. I don't trust Rory enough. With that being said, I think I'm going to own him still around 15% because it's just, he has that win upside or that win equity that I don't want to pass up on. And then Patrick Reed, $8,800, fantastic price tag for him. He's going to be in a lot of lineups primarily because of his price tag. And this is a course that, for me, I think Reed's just a safe bet. It's a safe play. I don't anticipate him. If we look at his, I don't run a cut percentage or anything like that what is the percentage I feel like he could miss the cut. If I were to guess, if I just, let's say I did one, I feel like he'd be there's a 10% chance he misses the cut. 90% chance he's going to make the cut. I feel really strong about his ability to make the cut. And because of that, I find comfort in playing him. But I don't know how much I want to play of him because he could easily just finish 30th place and not do you any good trying to win a GPP. Cameron Smith to me is kind of the wild card here because just recently when I played him, I think at the PGA Championship, he didn't do me any good there. I haven't been following him with any of his other tournaments as of late, so I have no idea what to expect from Cam Smith. I've heard nothing but good things about his around the green game. I mean, if we look at his strokes gained stats, yeah, plus 0.23. He's probably in the 40th percentile of this field with around the green stats. That's what this green color usually signifies. Maybe in the 20 percentile. Great putting, and then almost break even with off the tee, and pretty decent on approach. That's just season long. His recent form stats, negative around the green and negative off the tee, but not by much. So I don't know what to make of Cam Smith. Do you have a lean on him whatsoever?
You look at that big picture. I mean, the big picture says, I'm going to put him in Reed's class for a second. They both have pretty strong short games, but, I think when you think of short games, I think Patrick Reed is probably a name that comes to the top of most people's minds, first, 5 guys or so. But I think if you, make it 10 names, maybe 15 names, I think Cam comes up there. So I'm going to say he's maybe a poor man's, Patrick Reed. But, why take the poor man when you could take the real thing? I tend to agree with you. I mean, I think, Reed feels like the safe bet. But the thing with him, I mean, and I've got him still ranked in the top 10, but he's felt like the safe bet a lot this season. And he's, disappointed in quite a few times, and the times he showed up are times that I just didn't think he would. So I've kind of been reading the tea leaves wrong with him for sure. I'm probably more off Cam this week, but he's got the right type of game that I think can do well, but the price point is probably, why you'd play him. Just because I think, again, he's another one of those names that could show up, has got, higher upside potential, but, there's some things in the recent, I guess I have a little bit of recency bias with him that I'm a little reluctant to pull the trigger. And see, his, I saw you looking at his forms there. I mean, you just expect, top 10s all the time.
Right.
He's got the, 5th at Memorial and the 20th at the US Open, but then the 25th at the Travelers and the 32nd at the Rocket Mortgage, and then, and whatnot. And then, Cam, he's got the 30th, but then he's got the 2 miscuts, I guess. 2 miscuts, and they're kind of at the same thing. I mean, you see the 30ths and then you see the miscuts, but there's nothing that just screams I'm in the middle of a heater, I'm going to get you another top 10.
Right.
So, but it goes back to Rory too. I mean, and I think you alluded to it perfectly. You take out the Wells and he shouldn't be anywhere in the 10s. I mean, he should reluctantly be mid 9s, and that's still giving him credit for just the name factor and what he's done over the years. Could he flip a switch and turn it on? Yeah, I mean, he does have the event history, but I still think he's got all kinds of things to work through with his game, and I assume he's trying to gear up for this. But to go from he had horrible event history in the Irish and didn't do well. He had, substantially better history in the Scottish, but it still wasn't anything to write home about. You'd say he's got elite open form, but I think it's a big jump to go from, missing the cut to a subpar performance to just, knocking in this field. I'm going to be honest, you probably need a top 5 at that price. I mean, you might be able to skate by with a top 10, but I don't feel really good about his chances of bagging a top 5. And I think, it's probably a pass, but I'm still going to consider him.
Yeah, I think if he finishes top 10, like if he's anywhere between 7th to 10th place, it's not worth the play. And I feel like that's where he lives a lot in a lot of his tournaments, is between 7th and 10th place. If he was 9K, I'd say strike him up, because at 9K, that's how you can finish inside the optimal lineup. But at 10K, I do this a lot. Like I analyze all of the optimal lineups, for every single tournament. I can't think of one, and maybe I have a feeling that there was one tournament where there was a 10K golfer who was in that 7 to 10 place finish and still in the optimal lineup. But that's like one out of 70 instances. Yeah. It's not something that I'm gonna feel comfortable, like, okay, yeah, let's do this. So with that being said, like at 10-9, I'm going to curb my ownership. But again, it's one of those FOMO things with Rory. Like, if it's on, he's one of the hardest golfers to beat. You know, if you throw everyone's game on, you flick that switch on, who is at the top? You know, Rory's very volatile, but that volatility, I think, you know, we saw it at the US Open where he just obliterated everybody. When his game is on, it seems like he could just trounce everybody. But I feel like DJ and Rahm's game, when they're also completely on, are super close.
Yep.
And if they're all jockeying for the same thing, I think Rory's the first one to go. You know, if they're competing against each other with all their games on, his confidence to me is so much shakier than Rahm's or DJ's. So.
And if this was 2 years ago, I'd give you a different answer. But today, I completely agree.
Yeah. And even 2 years ago, I really don't remember Rory 2 years ago. I would take, you know, chubby cheek Rory over any form of the other Rorys because he came in and didn't care whatsoever. He had that swag no matter what. He could have, you know, been blowing up and you still see the little Rory hop that he does in his walk. No matter what circumstance he was in, like nothing could defeat him. And now it's just like he looks at things with a lens of gentleness. Like he doesn't have that killer look. And I'm not saying that's absolutely necessary, but that's the Rory I remember and the Rory I want to come back. But I don't know if that's going to happen again. I mean, he did win this year. He can win this Open, no problem. He's not going to be an anchor play for me. That's all I'm trying to get at. Not going to be an anchor play for me.
Probably not here either.
Which transitions me saying, I'll pick my 3 anchor plays. Again, we're creating a lineup. So we're starting with 3 of these golfers. I have a feeling that 3 of these guys are going to be in the optimal lineup. So I will select first. And I'm going to start with Justin Thomas as one of my anchor plays. So I'm gonna put this up here. We'll start here, and I will select Matt Fitzpatrick as my second, and for my third, I'm going Jordan Spieth, which leaves me $7,600 left to create, you know, a lineup for the next 3, which we will get to later on in this video. Do you have an idea who your 3 are?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
I will take Xander.
I like it. If I can, there he is.
I will take Tommy Fleetwood.
Ooh, I like it.
And I'm going to go against conventional wisdom and the wisdom of the SweetSpot master himself, but I'm still going to take a stab at Ian Poulter.
Okay. I like it. That should free you up with some salary. Looking better than me. You got $8,200 left. We both, I mean, it looks very similar. I have, let's see, hold on. What was it? I picked JT in that same group as Tommy Fleetwood. We obviously talked about that, so that's the kryptonite right there. And the other 2 groups, I don't think we have the same guys, unless I'm misremembering where Mr. Fitzpatrick is. Fitzpatrick was not in the same group as Xander, was he?
No.
Okay. Yeah, Fowler. I should have almost done this like snake style, so I could, you know, try to snipe the other golfer in one of your groups and see how it goes from there.
That would have been fun.
All right, so we're running at an hour 13, which is absolutely fine. Let's get into anchor buckets. And you and I discussed this before jumping on. Just for the viewers out there that aren't familiar with this, basically what I do is use the bucket system. Once again, I encourage you guys to watch the preview video. I linked it earlier on in this video. That'll help explain what these buckets are. But when it comes to anchor buckets, I always start here. I look at the top 5 frequencies of these buckets. These golfers in this field are given values based off these buckets. So I really only have two. I never talk about the salaries, and I never really talk about strokes gained. But these are the two anchor buckets that I think we need to look at and just see which golfers are in them. So I'm going to go ahead, open this back up. Let's get rid of the filter color. And then we want to look at last week ones, which are golfers who did not play last week. That is the number one bucket when it comes to last week. You're just in the way all the time, Nick.
Sorry.
Let me sort this by salary so we can see who's at the top. Brooks Koepka. So we have two guys at 10K range that are last week ones. And we have a slew of golfers between 9 to 8K range. I mean, we have a total of 13 golfers here, 8K and above. So just based off of salary alone, you know, seeing the golfers here, obviously their odds are really good as well. We're going to find one of our top, I think we're going to find a top 5 golfer from here. So with that being said, you know, we didn't talk about some of these guys. You know, we didn't talk about a Webb or a Tony Finau. Or a Victor Hovland. We did talk mostly about the other guys, though, or even a Joaquin Niemann. So when it comes to looking at this bucket, first of all, do you have anybody that comes from this bucket that you just picked?
No, I don't. Could be
Poulter?
lowered down.
No.
I do know. You've got Fitzpatrick, but no, I do not.
Yeah, I think I have all three. Fitzpatrick, Spieth. Not Justin Thomas. Never mind. So I got Spieth and Fitzpatrick. We can make a case for each one of these golfers. And because we already talked a lot about the other golfers, maybe we can just brush up on some of the guys we haven't talked about and give our feelings about these guys. Personally, I love Victor Hovland. If we're going that Nordic route, you know, that I talked about with Justin Thomas, I don't see a weakness at this tournament for Victor Hovland. I know a lot of people talk about his around the green game and his putting game, but that is such old news. We are holding on to comments that he made at the Puerto Rico Open, as well as I think the Mayakoba Classic that he won. So with that being said, like I think this is a tournament that he can play really well at. How do you feel about it?
I think he could too. I think you summed it up, you know, perfectly. Just to piggyback off. I mean, yeah. I mean, you know, it may have been not great, you know, 18 months ago, but then, you know, you look at it 12 months ago compared to 18, and it's better. You look at 12 compared to 6 and 6 compared to now. I mean, he's done his work and you know, he's gone from, you know, not being very good to, you know, definitely better than average in a short amount of time. So I don't think there's very many weaknesses with his game unless he manages to get, you know, some sand in his eye again, in which case then we'll all be in trouble if we play him. But I think he's a strong play at you know, 9,100. I mean, I've got him at 12th and you've got him at 21. So, I mean, he's definitely on both of our radars. And I think that 9,100 is a good, I think that high 8, low 9 range is a good spot. And, you know, with us being kind of lukewarm on, Usti, even though we've got him, you know, highly ranked, I think, you know, Hovland at 91, Cantlay at 89 and Reed at 88, or I think that's any one of those three is a good, I don't want to say pivot, but good, you know, anchor building or good building block to anchor your lineup with, not necessarily an anchor play.
Sure. You got any feelings on Finau or even Webb?
I'm kind of a Webb guy, but you know, and I've been kind of chasing him, but you know, like he just hasn't played a whole lot this year, and I worry about that a little bit. You know, his open events history is fine, but you know, at the 83, it would work if he got you somewhere between, you know, 10th and 30th. But you know, if you're looking for that, you know, elite finish, I'm just not sure that. I think I'm going to have to see one before I jump on board. Finau's kind of an interesting test case because he's kind of not looked right the last, you know, looking at his recent form, he hasn't really looked right. But if you look back at, you know, his open form and you look back at major finishes and stuff like that, you really want to play him. And he's really kind of hard. He's hard to lay off. I was kind of surprised he was 25th for me. Normally he's been probably, high single digit, maybe mid-teens or something. So obviously I think I've got a little recency bias built in that kind of kicked him back a little bit, but that 84 is a really good number too. I mean, you
Yeah.
could go a lot of places with that. It just depends on which set of, criteria and things you want to chase. But I mean, he didn't play last week, and I think, it's a strong play. Are there stronger plays in this bucket? I mean, maybe, but I mean, go 25th. I mean, he's going to be probably one of our, top 10 best for, each one of us. So it's worth taking a long look at.
No, yeah, I absolutely agree. Finau is one of those golfers that's really hard to tackle because he should have been better at, say, the U.S. Open and the PGA Championship, and he just disappointed. And it was like one of those moments where it was close to him being blacklisted for me, where he should be so much better than what he is. And it just feels like there's either something going on at home or something in his life. I mean, he has like 15 kids. So I don't know if he just had his 16th kid or something like that, where it just ended up being too many for him to handle. Obviously, I'm joking, but like,
maybe secret injury or something. I mean,
yeah.
like even touching on Webb, I know he was talking about his neck, but maybe there was more going on with his neck, and maybe that explains why he's been kind of off kilter too. I mean, it's the stuff you don't know about that makes things really interesting. I'm with you. Something definitely doesn't pass the eye test, but will we ever know what it is? I don't know.
And I'll say this: if Finau was 9,300, I wouldn't bat an eye playing him. So him being at $8,400, it's like, yeah, it seems like a no-brainer to play Tony Finau. So I will play him, but I'm going to keep in mind, because of his poor finishes, he's $8,400. What did he just do recently? So we're here, missed the cut at the Travelers, missed the cut at the US Open, 32nd at Memorial, and 20th at the Charles Schwab Challenge, which from what I remember, the strength of field was like in the 200s, I think. It could have been in the 400s, but I think it was in the 200s. This tournament we're playing right now is currently in the 800s, the high 800s, meaning this tournament is 4 times harder than the Charles Schwab, which he finished 20th. And obviously, US Open was tough. Yeah, I guess the PGA is not on the recent form stats, but yeah, I just 85th, and then the Travelers was 85, and I believe that strength of field was 400 as well. There's just something going on with Finau that I can't trust. So I think if I'm going to set an ownership exposure to him, it's going to be under 14%. Like, it's not going to be a lot. It might even be under 12%. But again, at 8,400, it's difficult to say that because he can just fit in so many lineups. I'm going to own Webb in maybe 4% of my lineups, maybe 4. I'm just staying away. He did have a neck injury that kind of played into his missed cut at the US Open. He hasn't been playing a lot of tournaments, so I'm not trusting Webb. I'm just going to stay away from him, but not completely fade him. Let's put this. I'm not going to talk about. I was going to bring up Joaquin Niemann. I really like Joaquin Niemann, but just in the interest of time, I don't want to talk about everyone because there's 102 golfers in this bucket. So, if I bring you over here, 102 golfers in this bucket. Usually we see 85. Every single year we've seen a top 5 finish from this bucket up to a max of 4. Now, the success rate of this bucket finishing inside the top 5 is 3.36, but that does account for the 85 golfers that are in this bucket. Top 10 frequencies, 3. We see 3 every single year from this bucket finished inside the top 10 with a max of 7. My projections are kind of this isn't something that is absolute. And in the beginning when I started doing this, like the numbers were really accurate. When I projected like 6, I ended up seeing 6, but I still have to work with it because it's not the success rate for it has been kind of lower. I added strength of field And with strength of field, I provided the percentage of what this does. And I'm comparing all of the last week buckets to themselves. So of all last week buckets, 50% of the strength of field score comes from last week ones, which to me just illustrates or even highlights even more that this bucket this year is a bucket to select golfers from. So with that being said, I'm going to do two things. One, do you want to switch any of your golfers from here to any of the ones obviously highlighted in the dark green on here? If not, do you want to add any golfer from, or up to 3 golfers or 4, whatever you fancy, from this list? And I'll scroll down. We can see some of these other, good value plays, but you let me know. First of all, do you want to switch any of your golfers? And I will actually just show you the fill colors. I'm going to give you a chance to switch.
Nope, I'm going to stick. First impression's usually right, so I'll stick with the 3. Let me see, and I will look at the. If you wouldn't mind scrolling down, I don't think there's anybody. But
just want to let you know you have $8,200 to work with.
Yeah,
so,
I'm gonna have to take a big boy somewhere, so we'll see.
Okay, so yeah, I'll start scrolling. I'll scroll. I'll just scroll to Mark Leishman.
Let's see. I don't think there's anybody at the bottom.
Let you look at these guys. You tell me when to scroll down.
I don't think there's anybody. But scroll down just to see if there's anybody at the bottom that, I don't think I really want any part of. Yeah, no. Okay. Scroll to the top and eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I hate to piggyback, but I mean, I would, from this, I probably would take, it's so boring though.
Hey man, boring can get results.
You know what? I'll take Adam Scott. All
right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is he actually? Which group was he a part of? I just want to double check.
Yeah, make sure that was the right thing. Now hold on.
So he's on group 46.
Was that one or no?
I don't see anybody there. Let me open this up just so we can find everybody in group 46.
That was the JT one, yeah.
JT, Scott, and Fleetwood.
Can I take 2 from the same? Oh, see, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I know. That's why I opened it up. I'm going to actually make you smaller so we can see more.
Yeah. Oh, that's a bad call. No, I'd rather have Fleetwood.
Okay. So let me clear this and look at ones once again. Go by salary. We'll remove Adam Scott from your list if you want.
That's okay. So who am I going to take? I'll take Cantlay. That's easy then.
Okay.
That'll work out well.
And so you just want to select one, or do you want to find another one?
No,
I'll wait till the end?
I'll probably take the 2 from the end, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to add one more to mine. I absolutely like Joaquin Niemann. $7,700 works with me with my lineup. So that's, I'm now at 75. You and I are very close with average salary. So we can go ahead and move on to the next bucket, which if we go to the summary page, that would be recent form ones. And that's that 20 to 40 range. This is their average finishing position the last 7 weeks. Or the 7 weeks prior to this one, I always look back the last 8 weeks technically. This bucket's a lot smaller. There's only 33 golfers in it. In the bottom of the list, you can probably skip on some of these guys. Maybe not. Well, I'll probably skip on Lucas Glover, but much smaller. It's headed by John Rahm, Brooks Koepka, DeChambeau, JT, Louis Oosthuizen, Morikawa, and Tyrrell Hatton. That's 9K and above. And then we have Patrick Reed and Scotty Scheffler. There's your guy Adam Scott and Tommy Fleetwood. So Fleetwood makes an appearance here in this bucket. When we look at the summary, we have at least one finish inside the top 5 every single year with a max of 4, 6.4% success rate. So it's a little bit better finding the top 5. Usually we see 33 per year. We have 33 in the field this year. 10.8% success rate finishing top 10 with a minimum of 2 and a max of 6. So I would encourage, try to find 2 guys from this bucket, but definitely find 1 to add to your list. For me, I already have JT in my lineup, so I don't have to worry about that. Do I have anybody else? Fitzpatrick and Spieth? I don't. So I only have 1, which I've got, but I'm probably going to add another one from this bucket. And for golfers we haven't talked about, we have Colin Morikawa, Tyrrell Hatton, and really that's about it. I don't care to drop into the 7K range to talk about those guys, but 9K range, as much as Morikawa is ranked well, I'm probably going to skip out on him. He's going to be one of my sub 15% owned guys, but Tyrrell Hatton, I think he'll probably be 18 or higher when it comes to my ownership. I do like Hatton here.
Yeah, I would plug him in too, but I would be out of money. So I will I would probably take a stab. Let's see. So it's Spieth, Bryson, and Brandon Grace. So then I will take Brandon Grace.
Okay. So 7,200, that will open it up for you a little bit. You have 8,700 now to work with. If I'm going to grab one more from here, I think it's going to be Kokrak. It's just one of those gut feels. I feel confident that Kokrak can make the cut. You know what? I'm going to take it back. I'm a firm believer in having a 6K golfer in your lineup. So it's not going to be from here, though, which means I'm going to grab someone up top and see what it'll do. Maybe I'll just snipe Adam Scott from you. Perfect. So I'm going to grab Adam Scott because I don't believe he's paired with any of the other. Wait, Adam Scott's with JT, right?
Yeah.
Darn. I wanted to snipe him just to say, haha. Oh, shoot. I might be stuck.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I'm reaching that.
This is okay. I'll go Scotty Scheffler.
Well, then just to finish the, see now it's a ball flight question.
No, I was gonna say I thought you were at 89. I'm like, you're $100 away from getting Tyrrell Hatton.
I know, like I was super stoked and I saw where it was and I'm like, dang it, I'm like in that never land of places I don't want to be. And I don't really want to leave that much money on the table, at least not in a open. So like I may have to subtract, but you know, just to stick to my guns, I suppose, just based on where I had him ranked and the fact that I can give me Daniel Berger, I guess.
DB.
That's some serious money on the table there.
Wow. $1,300 on the table. That is crazy.
Yeah. I think it's probably, I don't know. I need to spend another 600 to 1,000, maybe something like that. If you know, I'm not saying I want to spend it all, but.
Well, I mean, you had Xander in the 10K range. Fleetwood was 81. Cantlay is 89.
It's 3 7K guys, but they're just the lower end of the 7K range.
Yep. I mean,
but,
you had your gut on Ian Poulter. The only guy I think you probably didn't care for was Brandon Grace. You just said just give him to me because of his tee time pairing. But
yeah, so if I took him out, he's 70. Yeah, see, that gives me 85. I don't know. I don't think there's anybody better at 85. At least not on this one. It would be the other anchor bucket, I think, if there was anybody. I'm just trying to remember who was there. See, I could go back to Tony Finau.
Yep, you could.
Oh, man. No. But Adam Scott's back in the same bucket as JT and Grace. So if I did that, right? No, he's in with I'm so confused now.
I know it's difficult sometimes but he is in a group with one of your other golfers. He's what, group 46 again?
Yeah.
Where am I missing? Oh, I have things blocked. Yeah, there we go. So 46 was Fleetwood.
Yeah.
And you're not really getting much of a savings, going from Fleetwood or using more salary up.
I'll leave it at the 48.7 or whatever it is. That's
Oof.
fine. I'll take a stab.
Rough. Okay.
Yeah. But it fits what we're trying to do, so.
Right. Now, I don't think, I built my lineup now where I have at least one. I don't think I necessarily have to worry about finding a recent Form 1 golfer. I did have JT. I just put Scotty Scheffler on there. I don't think, I don't care. And for the other bucket, I think I'm fine as well. So, this might be a little unfair to you, but what I'm going to do is open this back up, select all of these, and then do our minimums with top 10s and find one of the buckets here. So we already talked about, I'm going to get rid of these ones. So we're just going to talk about the buckets here. So last week 2s, course history 2s, course history 1s, 3s, and then recent form 2s. We'll go through this fast. So if I go to last week 2s and look at my golfers here, Xander, you already have. I have JT, so that all works out. I also just put Scotty Scheffler on there. But some decent 7K golfers and some 6K golfers. I think I was just gonna say I'm gonna put Ryan Palmer on my lineup right now, but max of 3 inside the top 10, max of 3 inside the top 5. I'm already at 3, I believe. I'm at 2. Yeah, I think I'll probably just save it. Do you find who do you like here in the 7K and 6K range? Who are your top 2?
Well, besides the obvious Poulter, I'm a Richard Bland fan.
Okay.
At 68. And Macintyre was there too. So those would probably be the 2. But if you made me go 3, I would do Sam Burns was really interesting at 63, and I know sometimes those lower things pop, but I'll go contrarian and I'll say Lucas Glover again.
Okay.
I know he won last week, but I don't need him to win. I just need him to show up and, bag me a top 20. Well, actually, I guess I do. I need better than that. But, if we're trying to crack an optimal. But, yeah. So, yeah, out of everybody, I know it's higher up, but like Hatton's the one. If I blew up the thing and started over again, Hatton's probably the one I would try to work in. But
okay.
I do like Poulter quite a bit. But I think Bland is kind of sneaky. He's got a bunch of, his story is interesting because he got the win a few weeks back at the British Masters, but he played like 400. I forget the exact number, but like 425 starts on tour, never won, and now he's got like 5 top 15s in his last like 8 starts or something, including the win. So I think he got a taste of the good life, and he just keeps duplicating what's been working for him.
Right. For me, it's Sam Burns, Ryan Palmer. I kind of like Russell Henley. I don't like the fact that he's coming over from the John Deere Classic, but Russell Henley is an aggressive putter. These greens are going to be slow. He's not going to miss by much being an aggressive putter, and I think this works into his favor. So I do like Russell Henley, but the fact that he is coming from the John Deere Classic, I don't like that much. We don't see a lot of success for golfers coming over here. Again, a lot of that needs to be analyzed from strength of field, what quality of golfer is coming from the John Deere Classic over here. Now you can make the argument that they're good golfers because they qualified, for the Open, but I don't know. I really don't know how to feel. I'll play some Henley. It'll be around 12%, I think. I think that's a safe number to have him around, and he might actually just pop in my model a lot, and he might be that easy play. But let's move on from there. I don't want to be stuck here. Course history 2s. So really, this should say tournament history. So for all of those that are kind of confused when I say course history, I mean tournament history. Good thing about these buckets is they're not that big. You can see most of it on the first page here. We did talk about some of these guys already. You have Cantlay in your lineup, and Xander. I have Spieth, and that's about it. And really, this bucket's what? Between 1 to 6. Projecting around 2. I don't think I'm going to grab anybody from here, even in the 6K range. But your guy, Stuart Sink, is there. How about this? Just pick one golfer from 7K range to the 6K range. Who do you like the most?
7K to 6K range. So starting at 77 and working my way down.
Yep.
Of all the guys there, the one that's probably most likely to show up and give me a respectable finish. Ooh. You know, I really want to. He's not in the anchor group. You know, I really want to jump on Jason Day, man. Like, I know that just hurts me because his back could just flare up, but the reality is I would probably take lower down the board, but I would probably I'm gonna chase, you know, English golfers, so I'd probably chase Lee Westwood. It's not going to be a top 10, but I mean, I guess there's a difference. I mean, he's probably the one that I trust the most to give me a solid finish, but I don't know if he's the one to give me a top 10. But Day's the sneaky one. I think that out of those on there, that, you know, is probably just because he seemed to be playing better recently. And, you know, I know he's gone on record saying he likes hard courses. And if he happens to have found something, I mean, we'll see. But even though I've got Sink ranked higher, I think Day's probably the most likely in there to, you know, crack a top 10. So I guess I would say Day. But Westwood's the one I want. I just don't think he can get high enough up there. Right.
So for me, heart says Fowler, brain says Garcia.
Yeah, his open open event history is just like insane. Like I think he's got like 10 top 10s and like 17 starts or something. It ridiculous. I mean, he's the guy to, you know, he makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I just worry about the damn putter.
I don't think I'm gonna grab another golfer from this group. I'm gonna move on to the next one and look at course history ones, which we have a minimum of 1, max of 5. Decent success rate for top 10. Decent success rate for top 5s. This is that 40 to 60 range for tournament history. I already have JT on the lineup, or in the lineup. You have Fleetwood. I have Fitzpatrick.
Got Poulter down there too.
There we go, Poulter. Yep.
Yeah, Brendan Grace too.
Did I put Kokrak on this lineup? I can't remember. I took him off, and I put Scheffler. You have Brandon Grace, okay. Yeah, I mean, this group is actually kind of large, and I don't see anyone from the 6K range besides Ryan Palmer that I like. It might just be Ryan Palmer for me, just to select from, to round out my lineup. Is there anybody from this range, you know, 7K or down, that you
wish I had if I had room and lineups to play? I mean, you know, Lucas Herbert's, you know, played pretty well the last couple of weeks. Kisner's going to be popular. There's, you know, the Glover play. I think Ryan Fox is a little further down too. Yeah. Yeah, there's nobody that I feel like I absolutely, you know, have to have. But I mean, there's some interesting names there, just really depending on, you know, how you feel. I mean, I could probably, you know, take or leave, you know, more or less, you know, the from like, you know, once you get rid of Poulter and Grace, I mean, yeah, I mean, pick a guy and throw a dart and hope it sticks.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna keep Palmer in my mind, or in the back of my head, but I'm not gonna select him right now. Course history 3s, that's your 60 to 80 range. Let's take a look at those golfers really quickly. It's headed by DeChambeau. He's the only 8K and above golfer here. Everyone else kind of falls in that 7, actually really mostly 6K range. There's Henley. I enjoy that. Seeing that. Same with Daniel Berger. I don't feel like the strength of field is very strong in this one. It accounts for 12% of that bucket, so of the course history or the tournament history buckets. So yeah, not a lot that goes towards strength of field there. Success rate 7%, top 10, 2%, top 5. Not very good. On a max, we see 2. So I could see this bucket, not being extremely successful, but yeah, I mean, just looking at the names, I'm not super impressed.
Yeah, I mean, there's the further down you go. I mean, anybody could, jump up there, but I mean, yeah, I'm not really overly worried about anybody, down low.
Yeah.
It's really, if Bryson or if Berger and Henley, do what we think they could, that's great. But really, it'll be, to Bryson or not Bryson, I think, as far as the bucket goes.
I agree. Let's move on and look at the last one, recent form 2s. This bucket is pretty large. Let's see how many are actually in here. We have 52. Okay. On average, we usually see 38. It's 7% success rate. So I think volume alone, we'll definitely see a top 5 or top 10 finish from this one. I mean, we have Rory and Victor Hovland here at the top. There's Finau, who you decide not to go with. He's now in 2 of these subsequent anchor buckets.
Yeah. Make me change my mind.
My guy Joaquin is here. That's good to see. Same with Fitzpatrick. So I have 2 guys right there on my lineup. Probably don't have to dive into this bucket much, but there's another reason to play Ryan Palmer. Yeah, I think I'll just go ahead and roll the dice and throw Ryan
at this
Palmer.
point. I almost think you need to.
Yeah. So now I have 3 from this bucket. Is that smart? Yeah. Up to 4, top 10, 3. I mean, this is just historical data. So obviously these buckets can change where 5 could be a max. But since we see so many, I have a good feeling that we're going to see a higher amount of top 5, top 10 finishes from this bucket than not. And it looks decent. I mean, let's see. Strength of field attributed almost 30%. Sure. I can get on board with this bucket. Anybody strike your fancy that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, I mean, there's Garrick Higgo, So I mean, you mentioned in one of the earlier buckets. You asked me to sell you on him. There's Ricky showing up there. I mean, interesting. Right on the cut line there. I mean, I've been chasing Sam Horsfield, in Euro side a little bit. I mean, he blew up last week, but he'd been doing pretty well the prior weeks before. I mean, there's, Sink we mentioned. No, I mean, other than that, I mean, there's really, it's the 4 or 5 names in there. I mean, hopefully you pick the right one, and you are looking pretty solid with Ryan Palmer, my friend. I think that's a pretty solid 6,900 play.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, if we are also cascading, we have a lot of good names around them. Stuart Sink, Brendan Todd, if you're into that. Kevin Streelman, not terrible. I guess I don't really care for some of these other guys. Ryan Fox wouldn't be a bad pivot. Yeah. I could see possibly Sebastian Munoz, like not a terrible play. Yeah, I don't have anything else. And quite honestly, I don't think we need to talk about anything within this bucket. So we went through our anchor tee time pairings. We went through our anchor buckets. Before we take off, do you have any final words on what you saw throughout this video or throughout this pod, and anything that you might now be on that you weren't thinking about before?
You're gonna make me go back and take a longer look at Ryan Palmer. I'll tell you that right now. For sure. And the difference between where we had him ranked has me a little perplexed. I mean, I don't mind being different, but that's one of those, pretty steep gaps the wrong way. I think it was like 30 plus between the two of us there. So he looked pretty good last week. I'm not going to lie. And considering that was one thing I kept repeating about a couple of different guys, I mean, we'll see where I missed, but that's one I'm probably going to go take a longer look at. That's the obvious one. Let me take a look at your lineup too, really quick. I spent so much time looking at mine. I don't really know if I let yours absorb in. See, that's pretty, you've got, and you could fit all that in. That's crazy when you think about it, because you've got an elite golfer in JT, and he's in the 9K range, and you've got, Spieth at the upper end of the 9K range. So you've got two 9K guys there. You've got, Scotty Scheffler, who also looked, reasonably well for somebody I wasn't sure that, had the links experience last week. And, he's, capable of some pretty good firepower. Neiman's up there too. Fitzpatrick is, got the link, looked good last week. And you've got, good Lord, man, that's a really good lineup.
The only thing I feel a little iffy on is Ryan Palmer. When I have to depend on him, he lets me down almost 100%.
But there was a stretch of time he was showing up in a lot of optimals, and the fact that he's 69, I trust him at 6,900 because he's got that scoring potential to fire up the board. I'm happier. I'm happy to you playing him at 69 makes me happy. You playing him at 8,900, I'd be a little scared. So, and the fact that you could make that whole, lineup work between the two of our lineups here, I would definitely take your JT, Fitzpatrick, Spieth, Neiman, Scheffler, Palmer lineup over mine in a heartbeat, especially with me leaving 1,300 on the table. But I will be better prepared for the next round, my friend, for sure.
Yeah. When I look at your lineup, there are two things that I dislike about it. One is you're leaving $1,300 on the table.
100% agree.
The second one is you have to make your choice up between Poulter and Grace, and then you need to upgrade from there. Those are my two feelings. And obviously, I haven't won a GPP, so I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
So yeah, so like if I play this out right now, like Grace is probably the one like I would do. So then I'm back at,
cough.
Probably, honestly, and that's probably the move I need to make. It's 49.9. So yeah, like I should have done it. So there you go. Oh yeah, with a mulligan, that is my lineup to compete against you, my friend.
Yeah, and I would say this would be a fun one to go against. But just for those guys out there, remember, this is the original. This is the updated. I don't know which contests you have entered. Tell me.
I will enter whichever contest you want because I still have money to burn and lineups to play.
Are you in Nagels Bagels contest at all?
I am not, because I don't normally like the all for one thing, especially with people that,
Sure.
Like, I'd rather do a single entry or something. But you know what? I'd make an exception for this because it is the Open.
I mean, if you can get a spot, it usually fills in fast.
I will look when we get done with the.
Yeah, I'll reach out to you. Let's put it in a $1 something. It can be a $1 single entry. It can be a $1 GPP. Well, I'm trying to win a GPP. We're trying to win a GPP. Do we consider single entries like the $1 single entry at GPP?
No, I mean that's just personal preference. But yeah, you pick the lineup. You pick whichever one. I may already be in there anyway.
The short game.
You find one and invite me. Yeah.
No, let's just do the $1 short game.
Okay.
And we will see how these two lineups pair out from there. We'll do a little Twitter thing. Well, maybe we can get together during a review video, but usually my Sundays are very chaotic. But I'll definitely keep you in the loop. But let's go ahead and do a 50K. The
50K short game?
The $1 short game. What's that?
The 50K short game?
Yes.
I'm already in there, so I'll make sure to put so I have to put the Grace one, right? That was the rules because that was the original?
No. I want you to put the Finau one in because I think that's going to win you money.
So Xander, Fleetwood, Poulter, Cantlay, Finau, and Berger.
Yes.
At 49.9. Okay. I will make that one of my lineups.
We'll see how these do. Hopefully one of them hits.
It would be great.
Oh, I agree. Absolutely. I originally planned to let's do some more lineup building, but we're 2 hours in almost. So I think this is a great place to end.
I appreciate the opportunity to come back on, and God bless anybody that made it this long because you're as crazy about chasing optimal lineups as we are. So I appreciate it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I have to do more of these guest ones, having guests on, because when you're talking to yourself, essentially, that's what this recording business is just you're talking to yourself and trying to sound as smart as possible. When you have somebody there, bouncing ideas off of, it's just, first of all, it's simpler, it's more fun, and I think collectively we can probably come up with a better analysis than individually. So
Summed up well, my friend. Summed up well.
Yeah. Appreciate you being on, and I'm going to end it there. So thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Whoa. Hold on, Nick. Hold on. I almost forgot. I'm giving away the optimizer.
Huh?
Forgot about this. So obviously in the description, it's going to say the timestamp giveaway. To get this giveaway, I do believe I have everything populated in it, so I can go ahead and take a look. Not only will this create lineups based off of whatever you want to put in here, it will also save lineups, so then you can import this into DraftKings. You can go ahead and create lineups and randomize whatever. So you put your contest name. I'm sure it's probably difficult for some of you guys to see that. But basically, you would download your lineups from DraftKings, put whatever contest you're in with your entry fee. Good thing about this is you can sort this by entry fee. And then when you hit this randomize range, whatever you've saved in this lineups page, again, I probably should zoom in, will come over here and be randomized. And I guess what I can do is just, let's go ahead. I don't know how fast this is going to be. Let's run and save 9 lineups. I don't even know if I can move on from there. So maybe that's a bad idea. Anyways, we're going to create 9 lineups and I'm going to show you how this works. But all you have to do in order to get this optimizer, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, comment. What should the comment be, Nick? What do we want to see from our viewers? We want them to post a golfer. Which golfer do we want to see? 8K range, 7K range, one of the buckets. How about we do this? Which golfer from the last week 1 buckets? No. The recent form ones. There were less golfers there.
Yeah.
Which golfer from the recent form 1 bucket do you like the most that you would anchor your lineups around? Give that comment or provide that comment in the section below. And then unfortunately, YouTube doesn't allow me to see your guys' email address. So you're going to have to email me at sweetspotdfs@gmail.com. Just say, hey, I would like this optimizer, and you'll get all of this. And obviously this has already happened. The lineups have been created. So if you hit randomize, you can see lineups show up here. Obviously, ideally you'd have your contest names here. But the more you hit randomize, the different guys are going to show up. And these are all your lineups. It's not randomizing all these golfers. It's just randomizing your lineups. So you can have a little bit of randomness to your selection as opposed to having a bias to your selection. But that's not it. You get the dream sheet. The dream sheet's on here. Everything that we just covered in this spreadsheet is on here. You got your odds. We have our tournaments, the game numbers. This is also populated with Mr. Guru Nick's rankings as well as my rankings. You can use that however you would like. And I also put the bucket system summary on here as well. So you can see how all the buckets rate out. I should change some of the formats here. It's unfortunate that it does this. 1 to 20 obviously is January 20th. But I got to make this a text. But you get this, and you get to see the frequency of top 10 finishes, the frequency of top 5 finishes. I will add the strength of field piece to it, so you will have that as well. You get all of this stuff. So, again,
I would pay money for that, and you're giving it away for free. So just leave the damn comment and drop them a line so you can get it. It'll be worth its weight in gold when you cash good money on Sunday when the tourney's over. And the nice thing is, it's European time, so you'll get your money earlier in the day. So you can turn around and reinvest it on something Sunday night if you play multiple sports.
Absolutely. Also, it's easier to do this on Twitter. I'm going to post this on Twitter. All you have to do is like the Twitter post, retweet it, and I will reach out to you. You also have to be following me. That's a given. So it's a little easier on Twitter to do it. But if you're not on Twitter and you're on YouTube, I gave you the 2 ways to do it in order to get this optimizer, and I will send it to you as soon as possible because it's finished. So some of you guys are waiting for it from the preview video. I did the same thing. So yeah, those are the only things you need to do in order to get the optimizer. So now we can finally officially leave and sign off. Thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff again. And if you want the optimizer, obviously use those rules that I just provided. And we'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.